This video is going to show how to get started with the Skyward integration with Schoology. So what I have right now is I have a sample course where I have my class periods are linked together, and I'm just doing this just to show what it'll look like if you do have your classes linked together. If you do not have classes linked together, I do not recommend doing any linking since we're into the fourth marking period already. So essentially what you'll do if you want to sync grades from Schoology to Skyward automatically, what you'll first have to do is go on the left side of your course page. There is a Skyward button. It's kind of towards the bottom. So I'm going to just click Skyward. Then essentially what it does is it takes you to the screen where once we have everything set up, it'll allow you to sync grades. So I'll notice right now I have a couple sample assignments in, and then right now like it says like there's an error. So that just means that we have some setup to do. All right. So in order to get started using Skyward, we first have to tell Schoology how to connect to Skyward. So we need to go to this configuration button. It kind of blends in, so it's a little bit difficult to see when you're first looking at it. All right. When you click on it, if you get this white screen, we don't know why this happens, but usually what happens if I refresh my page, the page will show up if I click on configuration a second time. So like I said, we don't know why that happens, but if you just hit refresh and hit configuration again, it seems to work. Then what you're going to notice is that on the very left column, it has your potential Skyward building categories. And from what I've seen, it seems like this is any Skyward category that exists in the entire district. Okay, so these might not pertain to your grade book. Then the ones in the middle that are like actually listed as what the category is, these are the ones that you have tied into your specific grade book. And then any that says include category, these are ones that do not exist in your Skyward gradebook, so you can kind of ignore them. And then in your case, if you end up having weighted categories, like at the high school, this is how we weight the categories. Yours would look something like this, okay? But if you don't have categories weighted, then you won't see any numbers here. Essentially what we have to do is we just have to tell Schoology to make categories that match what we have in Skyward, okay? So since this is a brand new course, all I have to do is in this drop down menu, I'm going to just click create new Schoology category, and I'm just going to do that for each of mine. Okay. If for some reason like you create an assignment and you already had like maybe you already made your own category that said assessment, when you click on the drop down, there might already be an assessment option if you already made it yourself. So instead of creating a new category, you could just pick whatever that category was that you were looking for. Okay. And then one thing you have to remember to do is you have to scroll down to the bottom of the page, and then you just have to hit save configuration. And then after you hit save, you're going to notice that, all right, now my categories are showing up and they match up with what they're supposed to be. Okay. So if you have your classes, just each class is its own separate thing, you would essentially just have to go into your next class. You just have to go into a class, jump into the next one, and do the same thing to get your courses set up initially. If you have your classes linked together like me, even though your classes are linked, you still have to do it for each individual class. All right, so there's actually a little hidden toggle that if you don't know where to look for it, you wouldn't really catch it. But above the Skyward logo here, this is going from my period 6 class. So if I click on this, I can toggle to my period 7 class. And then once again, I just have to go to the configuration. All right. Notice that my Schoology course categories aren't showing up for period 7. All right. And then one thing I also want to point out is when we first made these, I said create new Schoology category. However, now that I have my classes made with the actual categories, I'm going to actually pick whichever category goes with the specific one that I want. And then once again, I just have to scroll down to the bottom and then hit save configuration. So essentially what I just have to do is this exact same thing for all the classes that I have linked together if I have it that way. Or you have to go into each course separately and do that. So I'm going to just go ahead and do this really quick. All right, so now I got my 3 classes are linked together. I have all the Schoology categories lined up. All right, so essentially the setup for getting Schoology integrated with Skyward, this is all it takes. All right, and then when you want to sync grades, the best way to do it right now, since we're still learning, is to just do it by individual assignment. So once again, I'll go back to the main course page. If you're on your main course page and you have things that you want to sync, go ahead and click on the Skyward button, and then essentially you'll see like all of your assignments listed that you can sync. And then if everything is good to go, you're gonna see like rounded arrows where all you have to do is click on them, and it'll create the assignment and put the grades in for you. All right. In my case, I have this error message. All right. So if you hover over the error message, it'll tell you exactly what the problem is. All right. So my error message in this case is telling me that I need a category to be able to sync. All right. So I know that I literally just set up my categories in Schoology here to go with Skyward. So that means that most likely my error has to do with the actual assignment itself. And it would kind of make sense because in this case, I made the assignment before I had my categories mapped out to Skyward. All right, so if you get an error message like this, essentially all we need to do is if you go back into like your main course page, so I just click on materials, and then I'm going to go into the settings for the assignment. So I'm going to do sample assignment 1. I'm going to click this drop down menu, and then if I look at the category for this one is set to be ungraded. All right, so what I'm just going to do now is instead of ungraded, I'm going to say, all right, I'm going to treat this as an assessment. I can change the points here. And then one thing I also want to recommend that you do is you also want to set a due date. If you set a due date, when it moves it over to Skyward, it'll keep all of your things in order, and then it'll be easier for you to keep track of everything. If you don't put a due date in and you try to sync to Skyward, it'll move it to the last day of your marking period, and then you could potentially have things that are out of order. All right, so I'll hit Save Changes here. And then just to show that it works, I'm going to go back into my Skyward area of my Schoology course. Now that I added the category, I now have the rounded arrows. If I click these arrows, it's going to, like I said, it's going to create the Schoology course or the assignment for you and put all the grades in. Okay. Notice for my assignment 2, it still says error because I never fixed it to have the category. So you're going to have to go back to each individual assignment. And then one thing I also want to stress is just like we had to configure for each of your link sections, you'll also have to sync for each of your link sections. So if I wanted to click sample 1 assignment to sync it, I'd have to go to my next period class, do the same thing. You can do it pretty quickly. You don't have to wait till the first one's finished. You can just click on it, move to the next class, click it, and then move to the last class, and all of your assignments should sync up. If you run into any issues with this, feel free to reach out to tech support, and we can help you get your Schoology assignments synced over to Skyward.